What's it like being a woman at Goldman?
That's actually interesting too, because at Bear, when I was in London, I was senior managing director. I reached that point, so I was the most senior woman at Bear in London at the time. And I remember that there were 7 senior managing directors in research globally, and I was one of them. The rest were men, and I didn't pitch to make myself the first woman senior managing director, globally in research. That wasn't my intent. I just was like a person. It didn't seem to me that it would matter, and so it was never part of my internal communications at Bear, for example, to be like, hey, I'm a woman, can I be like the token woman this, or because I'm a woman, I'm not getting that. Like it just never kind of occurred to me, and how it was made up there was very much kind of like an every person for themselves kind of atmosphere, but I actually liked that. Whereas at Goldman, there was a real structure of what they called diversity initiatives. I was actually on the cross-division diversity group, which was a lot of senior people from different groups throughout the world and throughout the U.S. who basically focused on different things, in that case diversity. And the idea was, all right, well, we have so many women, we need to make sure they're in certain positions, so we get our sort of diversity check marks, when in reality, the guy who ran the diversity committee, who is now David Solomon, who is now the head of Goldman, never actually had hired a woman. So it's one of these like weird things where diversity meant having a diversity group, but not necessarily like following through in terms of bringing women up through the ranks. And when I was at Goldman as a managing director there, I think we were about 11% of the company. And still the numbers at Goldman are about 11% of the company for managing directors. So as a woman, there are certainly the feeling of being in a boys' club throughout my career. But ironically, when I got to a firm that supposedly had a diversity initiative, it wasn't really any different. It had an outside initiative. But going back to just how I dealt with things as a woman is I just never thought about it personally. I just did my job, and when something needed to get done, I was very vocal about it. I did have instances on Wall Street where men I didn't think behaved properly, and I would alert my bosses of those. Like I had no fear that, I'm going to say something about the head of the FXS or something and I'm going to lose my job. Like I didn't care. I was like, this guy did something wrong to me, so I'm going to tell someone. And that's how I I experienced things on Wall Street just from the fact that it was a boys' club and the mentality of it, but I never really let it change how the level of sort of respect that I believed I deserved, or the confidence that I had in being public or being vocal about things that I thought were wrong. I think that we're starting the beginning of a prolonged period now of a recession or even worse.
Hi, it's Brian Rose from London Real. I recently sat down with Nomi Prins, the former Wall Street trader you would have seen on Fox, CNBC, and Bloomberg Television. She regularly advises the Federal Reserve, IMF, and World Bank on important financial policy matters.
I've realized over the years that people don't have the same exposure to trading systems on Wall Street. And so I looked at what are some of the ways that I can create something that regular people on the ground can use to access some of what Wall Street does all the time.
We had an incredible conversation, but what really stood out to me is her brand new 25-cent contract strategy, designed to leverage a little-known market anomaly that happens every day around 10 a.m., if you know what to look for.
The more comfortable you feel with financial elements, the better you'll be at managing them, and the more confident and empowered you'll be in your own life in any aspect of your life, not just with respect to money.
Now, as a former Wall Street trader, I am super excited to share this investment strategy for the very first time. As the host of this episode, I'm able to offer you exclusive rights to a seat at her 25-cent contract live training. But you must act now to secure your spot. So click on the link below or go to londonreal.tv/Nomi, that's Nomi, to secure your spot. And I will see you there.
I myself, my graduate degrees are in statistics and operations research, undergrad in math. So that was always, yes, my kind of angle into Wall Street relative to trading or sales, which was some of the other types of jobs on Wall Street. It was always about the math, the trends, the numbers, the securities, and how they behaved under certain conditions. And that's always what I looked at throughout my entire career on Wall Street. And I always also looked at the downside, not what happens if a trade works, but what happens if it doesn't work. What are the risks you should be looking for, and how can you best sort of protect that investment for those risks? And so that's a lot. They're a very cheap way of taking an investment into the market, particularly in times of volatility, that take into account what the big sharks are doing, that take into account why volatility is happening, and presents a way for a person to take advantage of that scenario in a cheap way, and in a fast way, and in an easy way.